I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies, and obviously we have hundreds of books and comics and everything you could possibly imagine. I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.
Books and comics. There you have it. George literally expected Kathy to adapt the expanded universe, just like how Marvel adapts their comics into movies. Instead, Kathy, Bob, and J.J. Abrams gave us some of the worst corpo BS storytelling in modern history. You can't authentically even take any deeper meaning from the sequel trilogy because it lacks an auteur's vision, and they barely even work as fun popcorn flicks. Unless you like being depressed and watching all your heroes die, detractors will say George sold the company. He doesn't get to decide what movies they make anymore. To that I say I completely agree, but you don't buy DC Comics to make a tentpole 4-quadrant movie about Ray Cloud Chaser, a superhero I just made up, then have her outdo Batman and Superman. That would be really dumb, and it's literally the direction they took with Star Wars. Plus, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby never owned Marvel, and they still try to adapt their characters into movies. So why is Star Wars so hell-bent on creating these new, flat characters instead of going with proven characters and stories that have worked? So if you are a person downplaying the expanded universe because George didn't always adapt it one-to-one, I would remind you this: George did pay attention to the expanded universe. There are dozens of elements from the prequels that date back to the original West End Star Wars role-playing game, not to mention the personal involvement he had in creating Tales of the Jedi. Now they got Mangold working on this Jedi Prime movie, and I don't even think he's read any of the early Jedi lore. He basically said he'd rather make up his own rather than use the authentic Star Wars lore. So now we have this quote from George saying he wanted Kathy to adapt the expanded universe. That means if you're a person who wants to know where Star Wars should be right now, you should be reading the expanded universe. That's as close as we have to the plan George had for Star Wars. It isn't one-to-one, but in spirit, the expanded universe is much closer to George's vision. Star Wars could be making movies about the great hyperspace war with Gavin Jory and the Dark Lord Nagasato, the dawn of the Jedi, or jump 150 years into the future and learn about Luke's descendant, Cade Skywalker, or build a movie around Malgus or Revan in the time of the Old Republic. Tell the tale of how Exar Kun fell to the dark side and how his spirit was trapped in Massassi temples. You could even follow it up with a movie where Luke takes on the spirit of Exar Kun. This stuff writes itself because it's already written. When Kathy took over Lucasfilm, she talked about the success Marvel had at Disney and how she could replicate it with Star Wars, but I don't even think she knows the names of Star Wars characters from the comics.